If you're writing an underdog protagonist, there aren't many better examples to pull from than Rocky Balboa. Unlike many heroes, Rocky isn't flashy or special or secretly a chosen one. He's a washed up nobody with few friends and even fewer talents. But when Rocky gets a shot at the heavyweight boxing title, the audience begins to love Rocky and root for him to succeed. That's because Rocky's screenplay knows the secret sauce to creating a sympathetic hero. So here are 3 key writing lessons that you can learn from Rocky to create a protagonist that your audience won't just love, they'll believe in. The basic formula for creating an underdog is pretty simple. Loser plus big dream plus
small chance of success. What are we waiting for?
The gap between where the character is and where they want to be creates instant tension, and the small chance of success keeps the audience in suspense about whether the underdog will achieve their goal and what it might cost them to do so. Rocky, when we first meet him, is not exactly aspirational. An unknown boxer who never made it pro, scraping by a living as a debt collector. He's not very bright and he's lost a lot of fights. Even worse, he's a southpaw, meaning he's left-handed. So most people don't want to fight him. He tells his girlfriend, Adrian, all of this on their first date, saying that all he wants is to prove that he has what it takes to be a professional fighter, to prove to everyone that he's not a bum.
Bum. A bum.
And Apollo Creed is the epitome of a professional fighter. The heavyweight champion of the world, he's an elite athlete, swagger personified, and a clear nod to Muhammad Ali, played to showboating perfection by Carl Weathers. After his original opponent pulls out late due to an injury, Apollo picks a local fighter in Philadelphia as a replacement. Apollo understands the importance of showmanship, and even though no one's ever heard of Rocky Balboa, his ringside alias of the Italian Stallion wins the champion over. Apollo Creed is a living embodiment of everything that Rocky isn't, acting as a foil to the protagonist like all good antagonists do. His skill, grit and panache are all qualities that Rocky must learn to embrace if he wants to achieve his goal of beating a heavyweight champion. Sports stories are full of David and Goliath style upsets, and Rocky has just enough of those elements to be believable. Apollo Creed is cocky, and he doesn't see Rocky as a threat. He spends most of his time before the fight on promotion, rather than training. Rocky, meanwhile, puts everything he has into preparing for the fight, even though his methods are unconventional. He gets the help of a local trainer, Mickey, who spent years overlooking Rocky on the basis that he had heart but not talent. Even though Mickey coaches him and helps Rocky train, the old man's doubtful of his chances. And it's not just Mickey that thinks Rocky's going to lose. Everyone does. But Rocky persists anyway, which makes him even more intriguing. Does he know something that the audience doesn't? Well, that takes us to the next lesson. While it's true that the underdog usually has no conventional skills to boast of, they're not better, faster, or stronger than anyone else. What they do have is an aspirational personality. Despite having every reason to not be a good person, to act out to be selfish or unkind, the underdog is normally shown making selfless, virtuous choices. In Rocky, we see this through the way he's sweet and caring towards the people he loves, like Adrian, where he drops the tough guy act and is instead a bit goofy and awkward. Woo! And we see this too in his determination to train as hard as he can. Rocky might not be the fastest or the strongest, but he is willing to push himself harder than most people would. And so we get the iconic training montages of Rocky pushing himself to the limit. Montages that get more and more ridiculously macho in each subsequent film. We see that no matter what problems Rocky faces, he keeps training, he keeps going, because the defining trait of an underdog isn't how hard they can hit, it's how hard they can get hit and keep moving forward. And boy does Rocky get hit hard, almost as hard as you should be hitting that subscribe button. But it's the final underdog element that makes Rocky such a relatable, iconic character. You don't technically need this element for an underdog archetype to work, but it is, in my opinion, what makes Rocky so enduring as an underdog figure. Rocky doesn't win. This point gets a bit lost in the sequels, but Rocky is a loser. He trains and he trains and he trains, but at the end of the day, he's a nobody from Philadelphia going up against the world heavyweight boxing champion. There's only one way a matchup like that ends. But this works exceptionally well in the first film because the surprise twist is that Rocky isn't really trying to win his fight against Apollo Creed. Instead, Rocky just wants to make it through all 15 rounds with Apollo to prove to himself that he's not the washed up waste of space that everyone tells him he is. This makes up our two forms of conflict in the story: internal conflict and external conflict. The external conflict is the fight with Apollo, whilst the internal conflict is Rocky's battle for his own self-worth. If he can go the distance by lasting all 15 rounds, Rocky will prove that he's more than just another bum.
Bum. A bum.
This sets the stage for the fight, where both internal and external conflicts will be decided. And whilst the audience is rooting for Rocky to hang in there whilst he blocks every single jab with his face, the moments when he really does stand toe to toe with Apollo Creed, when he knocks him down in an early round, and later when he breaks Apollo's ribs and starts to look like he might actually win the fight, the audience knows without a shadow of a doubt that Rocky should be proud of himself, even though Rocky won't accept that himself until the bell sounds the end of the fight. So the external conflict ends in a draw, and a tired but satisfied Rocky calls out for his girlfriend Adrian to join him in the ring. But we don't really dwell on the external conflict, on the outcome of the fight itself, because that's not really the point. In the background, as the judges announce that Apollo Creed won, in the foreground, Rocky and Adrian celebrate and say that they love each other, showing that it's Rocky's victory over his internal conflict that matters the most. For Rocky, the title and the glory never mattered, only his self-respect. And that's a lesson we could all benefit from. Because the best underdog stories aren't about beating the odds. They're about becoming someone who can face them. But what if your story has not one underdog, but two? How do you balance a plotline where both heroes are in opposition and only one of them can succeed? To find out, check out my video on writing a perfect rivalry, using Marvel's Civil War as an example. Until next time, keep writing.